Long ago, in the village of Akinyemi, lived a beautiful and kind young woman named Adesua. She was loved by everyone, not only for her beauty, but for her humility and grace. Adesuwa's life was nearly perfect, but it wasn't without its struggles. Her family had always been poor, but she worked hard, dreaming of a brighter future. In her village, people often spoke of her impending marriage to Olumide, the son of a wealthy farmer. Their love was the talk of the town, a true love story destined for greatness. Adesuwa had one close friend, Ifedayo, who had been her best friend since childhood. The two had grown up together, playing under the babu tree, sharing secrets and dreaming of their futures. They were inseparable. Ifedayo was bold, where Adesuwa was gentle, and their contrasting personalities made their friendship strong. But deep within Ifedayo's heart, jealousy simmered, a jealousy even she could not fully understand. The day Olumide proposed to Ifedayo was a day of great joy for the entire village. However, hidden behind Ifedayo's first smile was an emotion more poisonous than envy. It was resentment. Adesuwa, though, was blinded by love and the trust she had for Ifedayo, never noticing the small signs of her friend's discontent. In the weeks leading to the wedding, Ifedayo's bitter grew. At first, it was subtle. She could criticize Ifedayo's dress, make sarcastic remarks about her upcoming marriage, or casually mention that she thought Olumide was too good for her. Ifedayo would laugh this off, believing her friend was merely jesting. One evening, after helping Adesuwa prepare for the wedding, Ifedayo stayed behind. As they sat in Adesuwa's kitchen, the flickering oil lamp casting shadows on the wall, Ifedayo spoke, her voice low but sharp. "Do you think you are ready to be a wife, Adesuwa? Marriage isn't just a fairy tale. Olumide may not be the man you think he is." Adesuwa was taken aback. "Why would you say such a thing, Ifedayo? You have always supported us." Ifedayo forced a smile. "Of course, I support you. I'm just saying, not everything is as perfect as it seems." But in her heart, she was already plotting something far more sinister than Adesuwa could have ever imagined. As the wedding day drew closer, Ifedayo's envy turned into hatred. She began to resent Adesuwa's happiness, feeling as though her own dreams had been overshadowed. Ifedayo had once fancied herself in love with Olumide, though he had never shown her any affection beyond friendship. To her, Adesuwa's marriage felt like a cruel twist of fate, a reminder of all she could never have. One night, Ifedayo wandered into the forest near the village. She found herself at the edge of a dark, forbidden grove, where the elders warned people not to go. Legend had it that the grove was home to ancient spirits who would grant twisted wishes, but their power came with a terrible price. Desperate and consumed by jealousy, Ifedayo called upon these spirits. A cold wind wipes through the trees as she whispers her desires into the night. "I wish for Adesuwa's joy to turn into sorrow. I wish for her marriage to be ruined. I want her to feel the pain that I have carried in my heart." As the wind died down, Ifedayo heard a sound echo from the shadows. "Your wish shall be granted, but beware, what you give, you shall receive." Ifedayo, blinded by her rage, didn't hear the warning. She left the grove with a wicked smile, determined to bring Adesuwa's happiness to an end. The morning of the wedding was bright and joyous. The village bustled with excitement as preparations for the grand feast were underway. Adesuwa, dressed in a beautiful white wrapper and beads, looked like a goddess. She was surrounded by her friends and family, all singing praises and blessing her union. Her heart was light and she felt blessed beyond words. Ifedayo stood by her side, playing the role of the dutiful best friend. She smiled, but her eyes were cold and her heart was set on her plan. That afternoon, she helped Adesuwa prepare the traditional wedding stew, a delicacy that would be served to Olumide and the elders during the feast. Ifedayo watched closely, her mind calculating, waiting for the perfect moment. As Adesuwa stirred the pot, Ifedayo pretended to trip, and with one swift motion, she tipped the entire pot of stew onto the ground. The rich, aromatic liquid splashed across the dirt, ruining hours of preparation. Gasps filled the air as everyone looked on in shock. Ifedayo was speechless. Her heart sank as she stared at the ruined stew. Tears welled up in her eyes, not just because of the wasted food, but because of the symbolic importance of the dish. This stew wasn't just any meal. It represented the union of her and Olumide's family. It was meant to bless their marriage. Without it, the elders would consider the ceremony incomplete and the village would see it as a bad omen. Ifedayo put on a show of remorse. "Ah, Adesuwa, I'm so sorry. It was an accident, I swear." But her words felt hollow, and Adesuwa, for the first time, sensed something darker in her friend's apology. The elders who had gathered to bless the stew murmured among themselves. "This is a sign," one of them said gravely. "Such a disaster on a wedding day is a bad omen. The spirits are angry." Olumide, who had arrived just in time to witness the scene, steps forward, trying to reassure Adesuwa, but deep down, even he couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than just an accident. Adesuwa's mind raced as she tried to salvage what remained of the ceremony. Ifedayo's apology seemed insincere, but with everyone watching, she had no choice but to accept it. She asked for help to prepare another pot of stew, but the villagers whispered among themselves, spreading rumors of curses and bad luck. Ifedayo had always been jealous of Adesuwa, one woman muttered. Maybe this wasn't an accident, or perhaps the spirits are punishing her for something we don't know, another elder suggested. The tension in the village grew as the wedding feast, once filled with laughter, became a cloud of gossip and unease. Despite the setback, Olumide reassured Adesuwa that their love was strong enough to overcome any obstacle. But Adesuwa couldn't ignore the growing distance between herself and her best friend, nor could she shake the feeling that Ifedayo had played a part in the disaster. Unseen forces were at work, and the events of that day were just the beginning. Days after the wedding, the village had returned to normal, but Adesuwa's heart was heavy, although she and Olumide were now officially married. The tension from the wedding day still lingered. The incident with the stew had cast a shadow over their union, and whispers in the village had stopped. People treated Adesuwa differently, as if she carried a curse. Ifedayo, on the other hand, acted as if nothing had happened. She continued to visit Adesuwa, offering her help and pretending to be the caring friend she had always been. But Adesuwa was no longer fooled. There was something unsettling in Ifedayo's eyes, something dark and malicious that she couldn't see before. Adesuwa began to question everything. Had her friend truly betrayed her, or was it all in her mind? The spirit that haunted the Forbidden Grove were known to stir up trouble, but could they have influenced Ifedayo? These thoughts plagued her, and she knew she needed answer. Determined to uncover the truth, Adesuwa decided to confront Ifedayo. One evening, as the sun began to set and the village quieted down, she invited her friend to her home. Ifedayo arrived with a smile, but there was something different about her. A certain tension that Adesuwa couldn't ignore. "Ifedayo, we need to talk," Adesuwa began, her voice steady but firm. Ifedayo's smile faltered, and for the first time, Adesuwa saw a flicker of fear in her friend's eyes. Of course, what's wrong? Ifedayo asked, trying to maintain her composure. Adesuwa didn't hold back. I know what you did. You ruined my marriage. And it wasn't an accident. I have felt it for a while now. Your jealousy, your resentment. Why, Ifedayo? Why would you do this to me? Ifedayo's face twisted, her forced kindness slipping away to reveal the bitterness she had kept hidden. Why? Because you have always had everything handed to you, Adesuwa. You are the golden child, the one everyone adores. And what am I? Just your shadow, and nothing compared to you. All my life, I have always watched you get everything I wanted. Olumide, the admiration of the village, your perfect life. Do you even realize how that feels? Ifedayo's voice shook with anger and frustration. Adesuwa was stunned, her heart aching at her friend's words. I never wanted to overshadow you, Ifedayo. I always thought we were happy for each other's success. I love you like a sister. Ifedayo laughed bitterly. Love me like a sister? Then why did you take him from me? I loved Olumide too, but he never even looked at me. And when he chose you, I realized I could always come second. Adesuwa took a step back, her mind racing. The friendship she had shared for so long had been built on false foundations. The depth of Ifedayo's betrayal hit her like a blow. She had not only ruined her wedding day, but had nursed hatred for years, pretending to be a friend. Adesuwa's heart was heavy after Ifedayo's confession, but before she could respond, a cold wind blew through the room. The candles flickered, and the air grew thick with an air of presence. Both women felt it immediately. The spirit of the Forbidden Grove had arrived. A voice, deep and ancient, echoed through the room. The price of envy is heavy. You have summoned us, Ifedayo, and now you must pay. Ifedayo's eyes widened in fear. No, I didn't mean for it to go this far. I just wanted her to suffer a little, not this. Her voice trembled as she pleaded with the unseen spirit, but it was too late. Adesuwa, though frightened, stood tall. What is this? What do you want with us? She demanded, her voice steady, despite the dread creeping up her spine. The voice replied, Ifedayo sought our power out of jealousy and spite, but she forgot our warning. What you give, you shall receive. The stew she ruined was only the beginning. Now she must endure the consequences of her hatred. Adesuwa looked at her former friend. Now cowering before the spirit, she had not realized the full extent of what Ifedayo had done. It wasn't a petty act of malice. She had invoked dark forces that would now demand their due. Ifedayo fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. Please, I didn't know. I didn't know it would come to this. I just wanted her to feel my pain, she sobbed, clutching at the air as though she would grasp the spirits and beg them to stop. The spirits, however, were unmoved by her desperation. You choose this path, Ifedayo. The pain you wish upon your friend will now be yours, and it will grow with every breath you take. Adesuwa's heart softened despite her anger. She could not bring herself to rejoice in Ifedayo's suffering, even after what she had done. Is there nothing we can do? She asked the spirit. Must she be condemned forever? The spirit hesitated for a moment before replying. Only one thing can break the curse, a true act of selflessness from the one who betrayed you. But it must come from the heart. No other force can undo what has been set in motion. Ifedayo's eyes darted towards Adesuwa, her face full of hope and fear. But Adesuwa knew that this was a burden Ifedayo could have to carry on her own. Only true redemption and genuine remorse could she be freed from the curse she had brought upon herself? The days following the confrontation were tense and quiet. Ifedayo, once so full of life, became a shadow of her former self. She avoided the villagers, her guilt and her fear weighing on her soul. The spirit had left her untouched physically, but her heart was tormented by nightmares and visions of her betrayers. Every night she saw Adesuwa, the pain grew worse, as though every air around her was closing in. Adesuwa, though deeply hurt, could not fully turn her back on Ifedayo. They had been friends for too long, and she could see that Ifedayo's suffering was real. But forgiveness was not something that could come easily. How could she forgive someone who had tried to destroy her happiness out of jealousy? It was a question that plagued her as much as Ifedayo's betrayal. One evening, as Adesuwa sat by the fire, Olumide approached her. "You have been quiet," he said gently, sitting beside her. "I know what Ifedayo did hurt you, but you have been carrying this pain alone. Let me share with you." Adesuwa sighed, her eyes distant. "I don't know what to do, Olumide. I want to forgive her, but I don't think I can. She has broken our trust in a way that feels irreversible." Olumide nodded. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means finding peace within yourself, even when others wronged you. Ifedayo may never earn your trust again, but you must decide if you can let go of the pain she caused. Ifedayo, aware that the curse would consume her unless she found a way to atone, decided to seek redemption, but she didn't know how. She couldn't simply ask for forgiveness. It had to be earned. The spirit's warning echoed in her mind. Only a true act of selflessness could break the curse. She began by distancing herself from Adesuwa, knowing that her presence only brought pain. But from afar, Ifedayo started doing some small things for the village, helping the elderly, mending broken hearts, and caring for the sick. She did it quietly, without seeking recognition, hoping that by serving others, she could heal her own broken soul. The villagers, unaware of the cause, noticed the change in Ifedayo. They spoke of her as a woman transformed, one who had found humility and grace. But Ifedayo knew her true test had yet to come. She had to make things right with Adesuwa. Months passed, and though Ifedayo had changed, the spirit still lingered in the shadows, waiting to see if her transformation was genuine. One afternoon, Adesuwa fell ill, stricken by a sudden fever. The village healer was summoned, but his remedy did little to help. Word spread quickly, and soon everyone was talking about the strange illness that had befallen Adesuwa. Ifedayo, hearing the news, rushed to Adesuwa's side. Despite her fears, she knew this was her moment, the act of selflessness the spirit had spoken of. Without hesitation, she volunteered to take care of Adesuwa, staying by her bedside day and night. She cooked for her, bathed her in cool water, and prayed to the spirit to spare her friend's life. Adesuwa, weak and feverish, watched Ifedayo's efforts with quiet gratitude. Despite everything that had happened, she saw the sincerity in her friend's actions. Perhaps, she thought, this was the redemption Ifedayo had sought all along. After days of caring for Adesuwa, the fever finally broke. The village rejoiced, but Ifedayo felt no joy. She had not done it for praise. She had done it out of love. A love she had forgotten she was capable of. That night, as Ifedayo sat alone under the stars, the spirits returned. "You have fulfilled the condition," they said, their voices softer than now. "The curse is lifted." Ifedayo felt the weight of the curse leave her body. Now the scars of her betrayal remained. The spirit had freed her from their grip, but they could not erase the memories of what she had done. That would take time, perhaps even a lifetime. The next morning, Adesua sought out Ifedayo. Though she had recovered physically, her heart still carried the weight of broken friendship. She found Ifedayo sitting by the river, her reflection rippling in the water. Ifedayo, Adesua called softly. Ifedayo looked up, tears in her eyes. I forgive you. The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Ifedayo broke down, sobbing at the sound of Adesua's forgiveness. It wasn't complete. It never would be. But it was a start. For the first time in months, Ifedayo felt hope. They sat by the river in silence. Two women who had once been best friends, now beginning the long journey towards healing. Their bond would never be the same. But in the wake of betrayal and the breaking of curses, they had found a new beginning. This story highlights the importance of loyalty, understanding, and the dangers of letting jealousy control your actions. Jealousy and envy can lead to devastating consequences, not only for the one harboring those negative thoughts. Ifedayo's jealousy of her best friend Adesua led her to make destructive choices that damaged their friendship and caused great pain. However, the story also teaches that redemption is possible through genuine remorse and selflessness. True forgiveness and healing take time, but they begin with actions. Thank you for listening to this story, and I hope you like it. Please do well to like, share, and subscribe. And also leave a comment on what you learned from this story. Bye.